Hi, it's Dom here. I'm here to talk about air warfare of World War One. Where did it begin? Believe it or not, airplanes weren't the first type of air warfare. Air warfare was innovated back in Napoleonic Wars and the Prussian conflict. This was around the 1870s. The first type of air warfare were balloons. Back then, the hot air balloons were used for spying and distributions of goods. Planes came into play in 1911 during the Italo/Turkish War. This was the Italians versus the Turks, and they were used for bombings. Before air warfare, there was no way of spying from the sky at a long distance, and there was also no way for them to distribute goods and then take right back off quickly without getting shot at or taken down. Um, who used it and who took advantage of it? In 1915, there was a man named Anthony Fokker who was Dutch. He was a trader. He worked for the Germans. He made machine guns able to shoot out of planes. Because he did this, the Germans had a great advantage for a whole year until about April 1916. France and Britain joined together then, and they were ran by the British Royal Flying Corps, which gave them air control until Bloody April, where the Germans destroyed the Allied group. What changed the war? As mentioned before, Anthony Fokker his invention really had a major effect on the war. It allowed for air fighting and the creation of fighter aircraft. You could shoot out of the propeller of the aircraft, and this is a way for them to have dogfights, which means the planes would go up in the air and they would shoot at each other from a distance away until one was eventually taken down. In 1917, the Gotha bombers came into play. This was a mass bombardment that targeted logistic and manufacturing centers. They bombed ports and factories, and this killed a lot of civilians, so they eventually started to do away with it. But at that time, it did make a lot of kills because it targeted a big area where a lot of people were all at once. Now for the types of planes. There was several different types of planes. First was the Bristol Type 22. This was a British plane that only had 2 seats. It was pretty common for the British to use. Next was the Fokker Eindecker. This was a single-seater used by the Germans and was probably the most popular plane during the war. This was the one that I talked about Anthony Fokker invented, where the machine guns would shoot out of the back. Then you had the Siemens Schuckert. This was a fighter plane with just 1 seat, utilized by the Germans. Very popular for the Germans, but only had 1 seat, so only one man could be in there at once, dogfighting with the other planes. Next was the Sopwith Camel. This was a British plane with just 1 seat as well. Next was the Handley Page. This was a big bomber used by the British, helped them very much so. This was used for big bombings and had a lot of deadly force with it. Finally, they had the Gotha GV. This was a German long-range bomber, just similar to the Handley Page, but Germans used this one, and this was used for mass bombings, but just used by the Germans. Next, I have some famous pilots for you guys. The first one is Manfred von Richthofen. He was a French pilot. His nickname was the Red Knight. I'm assuming this is because he had a lot of kills, a lot of blood. The Red Knight. His picture is right there, the top one, right next to his name. in his time of a fighter, he took down 80 total aircrafts. 70. His first one was when he was young, and then 79 to top that off. So 80 total he took down, which is a pretty decent amount of aircraft to take down. He was an ace pilot. Next was Eddie Rickenbacker. He was an American daredevil. It's pretty cool how he was an American. Cool guy to talk about. He was a great fighter, known for going close to his target before attacking. He would sneak up on the other aircrafts and get real close, and then he would make his shots and take down the aircrafts. Next was Albert Ball. He was a British pilot who killed 44 total and was known for his do-or-die attitude. This man was a great pilot. He was an ace, of course, and he either did it or didn't do it. He took everything as one or as nothing. He do or die. Finally, I have William Bishop. He was a Canadian pilot, known for several kills in just a short amount of time. He was a part of the Daytona 500, and when he came out, as soon as he became a pilot and a fighter in his dogfights, he took down about 7 or 8 kills within just a few days, and he is a great pilot. Did things the way people want him to be done, and did his job very well. People really liked him. Any questions, you guys can shoot me an email, dom.vergazzo1@gmail.com, or my school email, dominic.vergazzo@salesianum.org, and I'll be happy to inform you guys with all the information you need on the topic. Thanks.